Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has announced that CFTOD has incurred millions of fines from the IRS already, and now Disney is going to question CFTOD supervisor Glenn Gilzine on the record. Let's talk about that on That Park Place. Hello, everyone. I am Jonas J. Campbell, an investigative reporter for That Park Place, and here with me is my favorite expert on all theme parks ever that have ever existed, Mr. Vash Sky. Vash, tell me about Evermore.
My pedigree keeps getting longer and longer in these intros.
You know what we really need? We just need you to be a Disney expert for today, but I'm glad you're here for that.
Thank you. I'm doing pretty well, better than getting $2 million in fines. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, that would break me, I gotta say. So let's talk about what's going on over there at CFTOD. First of all, there was a press conference early on Thursday in which Ron DeSantis and also Martin Garcia. I keep wanting to call him Martin Garcia. I think it's Martin Garcia, as well as some concerned parents, some local lawyers that were benefiting from the playing field being leveled, according to the DeSantis administration over there in Florida. It was a good press conference. It seemed to be kind of a victory lap, also going over some of the audit materials that have not been made. They've been publicly available, and if you are watching here on That Park Place, you are already aware of all of that, but maybe the media wasn't tuning in to find out about the 87 pages of audit materials that indicate, according to Andrew of Legal Mindset, 12 major crimes that have been allegedly committed by the Walt Disney Company, things that could end up with executives facing, let's just say, questioning and see, depending on how those questions go, maybe a little bit more than that. But what we want to talk about today is the fact that Glenton Gilzine, as he's sometimes referred to, is to be questioned by Disney in the ongoing Reedy Creek lawsuit. Disney has set a new deposition date for the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District Administrator Glenn Gilzine. Disney was previously scheduled to depose Gilzine back in late January, but the district canceled the deposition at the last minute. According to Disney, the district previously canceled the deposition at noon on the day before it was scheduled, saying that Glenn Gilzine retained separate counsel and that he would not be attending the planned deposition. Disney says that the district apologized and said that they would reschedule, but no new counsel had been identified, and that a new deposition date was not immediately identified. So I'm thrilled to know of all the scheduling issues that they've all tried to email back and forth about. Now, Disney has filed a notice saying that they will hold a videotape deposition for Gilzine on April 9th in the ongoing state-level lawsuit that was originally brought by the district against Disney, but that Disney then countersued. So right now, and this is covered in other outlets, there's a meeting on the 28th, which is, I believe, a Wednesday, where CFTOD will be going over their ideas for settlement. They're canceling their public meeting. Oh, here it is. It's right here. Thankfully, Blog Mickey. Hey, great job on covering these, by the way. Posted by Mike on February 17th. They're going over the federal lawsuit that is currently on appeal in the 11th Circuit regarding the First Amendment retaliation by DeSantis, with CFTOD listed as the defendant. This has been dismissed, and that's why they're having to appeal. State-level lawsuit brought by the district against Disney, alleging improper contracts entered into between Disney and the former Reedy Creek Board of Supervisors. This one is the most damaging to the company because it's alleging that they did race-based hiring practices. And this state-level lawsuit brought by Disney against the district, where Disney alleges violations of the Florida Public Records Act, which I got to say, that's rich coming from Disney. The sunshine laws in the state of Florida say that when you have meetings the way that Reedy Creek had meetings, they are required to be in the public eye. Sunshine laws in Florida are, of course, why we have the great legend of the Florida Man, because anything bizarre that happens in the state of Florida in which police are involved ends up being public records.
That is very true, and the way that RCID got around some of those things, or I think have been really alarming and definitely illuminating as they have come to light in the wake of CFTOD being a thing now.
Yes, well, of course the press conference, which was one of those things where if you're following it, you already know. But if you're new to this situation, they basically alleged that Disney taxed everyone else in the district, because if you don't know, there were 57 other residents of the Reedy Creek Improvement District and that not all of them, most of them were not Disney, other than, of course, Disney being the largest and most taxed because they're paying taxes to themselves, essentially, because they control this government.
Sure.
That
But the way
they
they were
built
appropriating
that,
those funds, though, yeah.
right. They built that parking structure, lime and lemon and grapefruit and star fruit and whatever. However, there's
Orange, I
three parking
believe.
structures. Yeah.
Hmm.
Citrus flavored parking structures.
Yes.
They're very nice parking structures, and that's almost $100 million in those funds were paid for by people who were taxed without representation by the Walt Disney Company. And then, in order to have access to those parking structures, Disney tenants, and if you notice in Disney Springs that a lot of those tenants are not Disney. Sephora comes to mind. That's not Disney. That they're all being charged a rate in order to have access to those parking structures, which were paid for with tax dollars, and that no one else other than Disney has access to those parking structures unless you are doing business in that Disney-owned property, that being Disney Springs. So this is a whole mess here. Vash, please go ahead.
No, I this is a whole mess, and it's kind of similar to the situation in Anaheim, where the Mickey and Friends parking structure was built. Well, it was funded by Anaheim taxpayers, and then it was leased to the company for like $1 or something like that. I mean, just outrageous use of public funds that have only been scrutinized further as the years have gone along here. The lime and grapefruit and orange parking structures, though, those are even worse because these are taxpayer dollars right here from the district being utilized for the sole enrichment of Disney, not even the RCID. So this playing around with funds right here. We know about the power issue, right? Where the RCID was supposed to provide its own power. And according to that audit, that hadn't been a thing for a while right there. In fact, during that press conference that was held yesterday at this time, the time that this is being recorded right now, apparently outside contractors were barred from being considered because Disney had these very stringent DEI standards that they would utilize in order to evaluate whether or not they were actually going to go with that contract for those companies to facilitate work on RCID property. Now, with the RCID being no more and CFTOD being established, they've been able to open up those contracts to a much wider subset of the community, to get a lot more people involved and at a cheaper rate, mind you.
Yes, that's been a fascinating thing. They've actually lowered taxes in the district and somehow accomplished infrastructure improvements there. The other things that were alleged in the lawsuit, one that was kind of an open secret, is that Disney handpicked all of the residents of Reedy Creek in order to control. Sorry, the residents of Buena Vista and what's the other one? It doesn't really. Lake Buena Vista and something else that's owned by Disney. Anyways, right. They were able to handpick the residents. They own the land, and they lived there at Disney's pleasure. And as soon as they were done with their terms, they by contract had to return the land to Disney, and then Disney would select another person in order to put them in that role. And of course, those multi-million-dollar fees that were imposed by the IRS, that was because Disney was providing benefits that were not being reported to the IRS, benefits that were going to government employees. And let's see, what else? Oh, yes. And Ron DeSantis ended by telling a little story about public domain. Disney had the right of public domain. Sorry, outside. I said the wrong phrase here. Disney had the right of eminent domain, which is the right to seize property with impunity outside of the district, meaning that land that they didn't own, they could seize it for use by the Walt Disney Company with legal impunity.
It's outrageous how much power that Disney had. And look, we talked about it a little bit on the live stream, but it really just goes to show you that this deal should have never been entered into the first place back in 1967 to this overwhelming extent. This was most likely unconstitutional to begin with. A judge saved it at the 11th hour, allowing this thing to go through. But this should have never been entered into. This should have absolutely been, let's say, reassessed later on down the line when the Reedy Creek was actually improved as a district. It should have been like, hey, maybe you don't necessarily need these many powers anymore because, well, the district has been improved. Your infrastructure has already been in place. Let's go ahead and do something that's a lot more state friendly, let's say. But they had this power for all this time. This is why they campaign. This is why they donated to campaigns and politicians on both sides of the political spectrum for all this time is to maintain this deal in place. It's why they've played somewhat nice because this has been attacked before, and Walt Disney World or Disney themselves knew how valuable this was, knew it was important to maintain this kind of deal and not have people, let's say, look too far into it. And so that's why they've kept their head down until, well, the state wants to pass 1557 and protect children's education. And now it's like, whoa, hang on a second. Now we're going to get involved here. We're going to use all the power at our discretion to overturn this law. We're going to work in Tallahassee. We're going to work in the state court system and try to get this thing overturned. At that point, politicians honestly didn't have any choice but to retaliate in the way they did.
Right. And when Disney when footage has come out saying that Bob Iger views his role as the head of the Disney company as functioning as a political arm, he said that it's not political, it's just a moral good in order to for them to comment on political acts and to make political change. Well, that says that they are in fact a political entity and therefore can come in opposition and punishment by political forces. Now, that being said, when we were on That Park Place Live, Andrew from The Legal Mindset was on, and he alleged something that makes sense, but we're still investigating, that perhaps because of the CFTOD situation, that has been what has delayed the Disney company from announcing new projects, actual new projects, not like 10 years we're thinking about building a thing, maybe, and it'll have a thing. And by the way, tell us all what you think about that before we dedicate money to it. That because of this CFTOD situation, Disney literally can't break ground until this is all resolved. So these settlement negotiations, if that is the case, the settlement negotiations will be even more critical than we previously thought. And we're looking forward to seeing the implications of all of that soon. There's still some investigation going on our end, so please stay tuned here to That Park Place for that.
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, it makes a lot of sense what Andrew's saying. You got to think, right? If you're going to get the approval process for, let's say, a permit to be for an attraction, for example, who do you file that with if it's not necessarily clear who has that power? Does Disney have that power in that last-minute covenant arrangement that they made with the RCID in the final moments, or does CFTOD have that power? So it makes a lot of sense. We're still investigating and whether or not that is actually that's a thing right here. Definitely keep track of that Park Place, as Jonas was saying, so we can get to the bottom of that. But remember, RCID used to handle the liquor licenses that Disney would have to go through in order to establish a lot of their bars and so forth, right, on Walt Disney World Resort property. Well, now who has that power even? So there's a lot of open questions right here, and maybe that's why that settlement has to be addressed because, well, if Disney wants to invest it all in Walt Disney World, that could put the kibosh on that.
Yep, and of course, some have alleged that it seems like Disney is only building bars these days. Now, the last thing that was said in this press conference that I found fascinating is that they said the monorails had never been inspected, and that there are some code violations that have never come under public scrutiny, and that CFTOD going in there, that there may be another shoe that drops if they don't play ball with CFTOD, and they like being able to sign off on their own on what is okay and what is not. But of course, that is something that is still developing, and we can only speculate on what that really means. Now, that being said, like this video. If you like this video, consider sharing it out. If you know someone who is interested in what is going on with the CFTOD situation over there at Walt Disney World in Florida. And of course, consider subscribing to That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.